The lunch bell rang like thunder through the hallways of Ridgeway High. Students poured into the cafeteria like a restless crowd, laughter and chatter echoing off the tiled walls. Trays clattered, sneakers squeaked, and the air buzzed with the smell of pizza and fries. At one corner, near the last table by the window, sat Lena Ward, the new girl. She had transferred only 3 days ago, quiet, composed, always keeping her eyes on her notebook instead of people. Her long brown hair fell slightly over her face, hiding the bruised confidence of someone who had already seen too much in life. Across the room, the self-proclaimed kings of the school, Tyler Briggs, Zach Monroe, and Becca Lane, the loud cheerleader who always followed their lead, noticed her sitting alone again. Tyler, tall, broad-shouldered, his Letterman jacket half-zipped, leaned back in his chair with a smirk. "Hey, there's the new freak again," he said. Zach laughed, tossing a grape toward Lena's table. It bounced off her tray and rolled to the floor. She didn't even look up. That calmness, that silence, made them angrier than insults ever could. Becca, twirling her blonde ponytail, leaned forward. "Why don't you talk to anyone, huh? Too good for this school," she called out loudly enough for half the cafeteria to hear. Heads turned. Lena looked up slowly, her hazel eyes cool, steady, almost detached. "No," she said softly. "I just prefer peace." Tyler grinned. "Peace? In this cafeteria?" He stood up, swaggering over with his tray in hand. The crowd watched as he stopped beside her table. "You think you're some kind of saint or something?" he taunted. Lena didn't answer. She reached for her apple. That silence again, it infuriated him. Tyler slammed his hand down on her tray, knocking her drink over. Soda splashed across the table and onto her books. A small gasp rippled through the students nearby. She stood up quietly, dabbing the spill with a napkin. Her movements were calm, precise, like she'd done this before. That calm only made him push harder. "What's wrong, new girl? You gonna cry?" Tyler mocked. His grin stretched wider as he reached out suddenly and grabbed her wrist, twisting it just slightly, testing her reaction. But Lena didn't flinch. She looked him dead in the eyes. "Let go," she said quietly. Zach, laughing behind him, nudged Tyler. "Careful, man, maybe she bites." The cafeteria's noise began to fade. Even the ones eating had stopped mid-bite. Everyone could feel it. Something in the air had shifted. Tyler squeezed tighter, enough that any normal girl would have screamed. But Lena didn't move, didn't even blink. Instead, her gaze sharpened, her stance shifted ever so slightly. Her right foot sliding half an inch back, her shoulder lowering, her muscles tightening under her jacket sleeve. "I said let go." Tyler leaned closer, sneering. Or what? That was his mistake. In a blink, Lena twisted her wrist in a perfect rotation, snapping free of his grip. Before he could react, her palm shot forward, striking his chest and forcing him a full step backward. Gasps erupted. Tyler stumbled, shocked. She hadn't hit him hard. Not yet. Just enough to make him realize she wasn't helpless. Zach laughed nervously.
"Whoa, chill, it's just a joke,"
he said, raising his hands, but Tyler wasn't having it. His pride burned hotter than his pain. "You think you can hit me?" he growled. "You're done." He lunged forward, grabbing her again, this time with both hands. Lena's left hand shot up, blocking his arm, and in one smooth motion, she pivoted her hips, twisting his wrist downward while stepping aside. There was a sharp crack, not of bones breaking, but of joints being forced near their limit. Tyler screamed. He fell to his knees, clutching his arm, his face pale. The cafeteria fell dead silent. Everyone stared. Becca covered her mouth, eyes wide. Zach froze. "Dude, what the hell?" Lena stepped back, breathing evenly. She didn't look triumphant. She looked disappointed. "You should never grab someone like that," she said softly. "Someone might not be as patient as me." Tyler glared up at her, pain and humiliation mixing in his expression. You broke my arm," he shouted, but she shook her head. "No," she said calmly. "You broke your own pride." A teacher burst through the door at that moment, drawn by the noise. "What's going on here?" she demanded, scanning the room. Tyler tried to speak, but no one said a word. Even Becca stayed silent. The teacher turned toward Lena, noticing her untouched lunch, the spilled soda, the way everyone stared at her like she was both terrifying and untouchable. Lena just smiled faintly. "Nothing, ma'am," she said. "Just a misunderstanding." The teacher frowned but nodded, telling everyone to get back to their seats. Slowly, the crowd dispersed, whispering, stealing glances at Lena. Tyler was helped up by Zach, still cradling his arm, his pride in tatters. He shot her a look filled with fury, but beneath it fear. When the lunch period ended, Lena gathered her books again, but this time she wasn't alone. A few students came up to her quietly. A shy girl from the back table, a boy who usually got picked on in gym. They smiled awkwardly, offering to help her clean up the spilled drink. She accepted with a soft thank you. The balance had shifted. The cafeteria bullies had met someone who refused to bow, and everyone saw what real strength looked like, not loud, not cruel, but controlled, unbreakable. As Lena walked out of the cafeteria, the hallway light spilled over her face. For the first time since joining Ridgeway, she smiled. Not because she'd hurt someone, but because she finally felt seen, and she hadn't needed to raise her voice to do it. But deep down, she knew it wasn't over. Tyler's type never backed down after humiliation. He'd come back angrier, louder, and more dangerous, and next time, she might have to remind him again that some people are not victims. Some are storms in disguise.